What do you do in your marriage when your spouse wants more sex than you do? What if you want more sex than they do? What if this is a serious problem in your marriage and you don't really know what to do about it? Kind of embarrassing to ask. So join us today as Allen Parr answers this question for us. A few months ago, we did something we've never done before. We had a marriage conference, unlike anything we have ever done here before at our Women's Bible Study. We had 3 guest speakers, Mike Winger, Allen Parr, and Dr. Sean McDowell come in. We asked them over 80 tough marriage questions over an 8-hour period. Because at our Women's Bible Study, I usually teach verse by verse through the Bible. When someone emails me a marriage question, I would always point them to these guys' websites. So one day I was thinking, why don't we just do a marriage conference? Why don't we bring these guys in and they can answer all these questions? So a lot of these questions are questions people are too embarrassed to ask. So after the conference, I decided to break all 80 questions apart so that they would be easy for people to find if you're looking for one specific question. So here is Allen Parr answering, what if we have completely different sex drives in our marriage? What should we do? Watch this. All right, let's talk about sex. All right. Men and women, men always want sex. Women are just like, whatever. I mean, that's just, is probably the more majority out there, I would assume. Men want to have sex every day, as many times as they want, and women are like, can we just do this once a month? Whatever. So, you get it.
I'm not making any facial expressions at this point. Particularly when you just said once a month. I'm not going to make any facial expressions.
You're like, no, thank you. Or whatever, because there's just people you hear that's just their life. Yeah. So what do? You get married and your spouse is like, oh, for the love, what's wrong with you? Sorry. Did I just say that out loud? Yes.
You did. You may have to edit that out later. All right. Yeah, so first and foremost, this one I want to camp out on a little bit longer because, this is a very common issue, and it's a very, very serious issue that can trickle down into other areas of your marriage. First of all, just know that it's perfectly normal, all right? And I'm going to be saying that quite a bit throughout the day because oftentimes the enemy will cause us to feel isolated and feel like there's something wrong with us and there's something wrong with our marriage because we have this problem. But when things start to be normalized more, then you realize, oh, we don't necessarily have a bad marriage. We just have a normal marriage. It's a normal thing to deal with when one spouse has a higher drive than the other, right? So a few things that we can do, because that's really what you're here for. What can I do, right? So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to figure out the real root of the issue. Instead of just saying, well, I don't have the same drive, we don't have the same drive. That's not good enough. You have to find a way in your marriage to get to the real reason. What is the real reason why the drives are different? And let me give you several of them that you can really start to have these conversations with. Is it an attraction issue? Are you genuinely attracted to each other? Let's just start with the basics, right? And you have to be willing to be brutally honest with your spouse, and you have to be willing to accept and receive whatever they may say. If you're going to enter into that type of conversation, you have to be willing for them to say, you know what? At one point, I had the hots for you and everything was great. But if I'm being honest, some things have changed, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it's your attitude, whatever, that I'm just not attracted to you in the way that I used to, but I know I can get back there. So you need to have that conversation. It could be an insecurity, right? You might be attracted to each other, but it could be that this person who used to be very, very confident in themselves is just not very confident anymore. Maybe they've had 4 or 5 children. Their body has changed. Maybe there are certain things that are going on in their life. And you know what? They used to be very sexual, but now they're not as much because maybe they don't feel like you see them as beautiful anymore because they're insecure. So that's something you need to explore. It could be an emotional thing. 9 times out of 10, it is. You're not emotionally connected, as Sean said, and oftentimes when you focus more on getting back to being friends and having fun and having conversations and feeling connected, the sexual connection will actually follow. Another one is medication, right? if I can be fully transparent with you all for just a moment, because that's how I roll, right? I always said to God, look, God, if you ever give me a platform, I'm going to be fully transparent and vulnerable. My wife and I went through a season where things weren't connecting in that area, and we found out that one thing that was contributing to it was some medication that she was on. And she was like, are you serious? This is what it was that was like suppressing my desire? I'm like, well, we found out. So it might be something like that. It might be stress. Person is working too much. It might be fatigue from taking the children and doing all these things, right? It could be seasonal. It could be just that you have a great sex life, but right now you got 2 little kids, and that and it's a seasonal thing, and it's going to come back, right? Or it could be this. Maybe sex is not enjoyable for your partner because you're not doing your part to make sure that it's something that they actually look forward to wanting to engage in. And so you might have to have those conversations. So, what do you do? First of all, this is to all the brothers, this is free. Don't pout about it. Pouting does not work. All right? That's a free one. Don't pout, right? Because that's not going to get you anywhere. But the other thing is empathy. Try to enter into this with more of an empathetic, I feel like I'm spending too much time on this question, but more empathetic, right? Say, okay, how does my spouse feel? How would it feel like if I was in my spouse's shoes where I have so much drive, but I'm not able to fulfill it because my spouse doesn't want to meet my needs? How would I feel if I was in their shoes? Or how would I feel if I'm in the other shoes where, man, I know my spouse wants it more, but I just can't give it, right? So empathy is very, very important. And also, finally, be encouraged to know that if you did at one point have a good sexual connection, then just know that you can be achieved again. All right?
I hope this has helped you, especially if you struggle with this in your marriage. If you want to watch the rest of the session in its entirety, I will put its link below.